Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're taking a massive leap down the rabbit hole to upgrade our wetware with some seriously dense, mind-bending philosophical concepts. We're going to be exploring the absolutely fascinating intersection of cyberpunk philosophy and what we can really only describe as our modern reality crisis. Consider this our system boot sequence. We're downloading 5 core modules today. Welcome to the desert, ghosts in the machine, the stages of simulation, cowboys of cyberspace, and finally, the modern reality crisis. Together, these modules are going to help us decode exactly how 80s and 90s science fiction literally predicted the digital lives we are all living right now. All right, Module 1, welcome to the desert. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is, well, when most of us think of movies like The Matrix, we immediately think of incredible action, bullet time, cool leather trench coats, right? But beneath that slick Hollywood surface, these stories are actually profound philosophical warnings. Here's a wild fact. The famous French philosopher Jean Baudrillard, whose actual book makes a cameo in the film, by the way, absolutely hated it. No way, right? Why? Because The Matrix relies on Plato's cave. It's that classic idea where there's a hard, clear line between the real world and a fake illusion. You take the red pill, you wake up. But Baudrillard's core theory argued the exact opposite. He said the modern world is blurring the real and the fake so thoroughly that no distinction exists anymore. There's literally no real left to wake up to. So Baudrillard gave this truly terrifying condition a name: hyperreality. It's basically a state where that old, comfortable boundary between reality and representation completely implodes. The fake actually becomes more real to us than the real world itself. In a hyperreal society, the whole criteria of what's true or false, it just drops away entirely. It drops us straight into what he so famously called the desert of the real. Okay, moving on to Module 2, Ghosts in the Machine. To really understand this, we need to shift our focus from the simulated environments outside of us to the complex biological wiring inside of us. The philosopher Arthur Koestler aggressively pushed back against the idea that humans are just meat machines blindly reacting to outside stimuli. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a giant nested puzzle. He introduced this concept called the holon. So a holon is something that's simultaneously a whole, complete entity on its own, but it's also just a tiny part of a much larger system. Think about it like cells forming organs and organs forming a body. Koestler believed humans are these complex hierarchies of nested parts, and from that biology, a ghost of consciousness just sort of naturally emerges. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where our biological hardware actually glitches. Koestler's concept of the triune brain. As you can see, our brains evolved in 3 distinct stacked layers. You've got the ancient reptilian complex handling primal survival, the limbic system driving emotion, and the newer neocortex giving us rational thought. The problem? The wiring between these layers is terrible. They're just constantly fighting with each other. This biological conflict makes us incredibly prone to what Koestler calls errors of transcendence, this deep-seated biological frustration that makes us desperately want to escape our flawed, messy bodies and just merge with perfect machines. Which brings us to Module 3, the stages of simulation. So how exactly did human society's reality glitch and progress all the way into pure simulation? Well, Baudrillard mapped out the death of reality in 4 very distinct steps. Let's walk through them together. Step 1 is sacramental. This is where an image is a faithful reflection of reality, kind of like a highly accurate map. Step 2 is maleficence, where that map starts to distort or pervert the reality it's depicting. Step 3 is where it gets really dangerous, sorcery. Here, the map is playing a trick. It actually masks the fact that the underlying reality is completely gone. And finally, Step 4, pure simulacrum. The map has entirely replaced the territory. It has absolutely zero relation to any reality whatsoever. It literally just refers to itself. Now, if that sounds a little bit too abstract, Baudrillard used a absolutely brilliant real-world example to explain it: Disneyland. He argued that Disneyland isn't just a fun theme park, it's a deterrence machine. Society gives us this obvious, cartoonish fake specifically to hide the terrifying truth that everything outside the park, the suburbs, the economy, the politics of America, has also become a massive simulation. We use the obvious fake of Disneyland to convince ourselves that the rest of the world is still somehow real. All right, Module 4, Cowboys of Cyberspace. Back in the 1980s, an incredible literary revolution took these super dense academic philosophies and turned them into a gritty, neon-soaked genre, cyberpunk. These authors, they saw the simulation coming, and they gave that simulation a name, cyberspace. Coined by William Gibson in his legendary 1984 novel Neuromancer, he defined it as a graphic representation of data abstracted from banks of every computer in the human system. Keep in mind, Gibson conceived of this massive three-dimensional digital universe long before the modern internet as we know it had even been built. A real game changer for sure. He went on to describe cyberspace with this absolutely iconic quote: "A consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators." So the crucial point is, well, the absolutely most crucial word in that entire idea is consensual. We all agree to believe in the digital space. This bridges right back to Baudrillard's hyperreality, right? We are willingly, collectively participating in the simulation. And this consensual hallucination forms the core philosophy of cyberpunk, which is essentially a modern gnostic dualism. The genre is defined by a total disdain for the physical body, which characters disparagingly call meat. There's this constant driving urge to upgrade biological wetware with cybernetics. They're always chasing digital afterlives, hoping to exist as ROM constructs forever. It's really the ultimate fantasy of merging man and machine, jacking in to escape the painful, flawed flesh for the pristine perfection of data. Which leads us to a highly uncomfortable question. I want you to think about the glowing screen you are staring at right now. Are we already in the Matrix? I mean, you are absorbing structured data and participating in a digital realm at this very second. We might not have mechanical cables plugged directly into our brainstems, at least not yet, but hasn't a massive part of our consciousness already migrated into the consensual hallucination? Let's hit our final module, Module 5, the modern reality crisis. Let's aggressively pivot from past science fiction directly into the 2020s, because those novels and movies, they weren't just cool entertainment, they were literally prophecies that are unfolding all around us. Just look at our technological landscape today. Generative AI systems are churning out text and images that are pure fourth-order simulacra, meaning they are fakes based on absolutely nothing, they have no original referent in reality at all. Deepfakes act as sorcery, perfectly masking the absence of truth. We've got AI influencers with millions of followers, completely devoid of any human subjectivity whatsoever. Tech giants are trying to build out the metaverse to replace our physical living spaces, perfectly mirroring the simulated future chambers from Greg Bear's 1985 novel Eon. The reality crisis isn't just a theory anymore, it is the actual environment we live in. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The system is asking, are you the ghost? Or are you just a localized output of the machine? As our digital footprints expand and our physical lives blur permanently into the hyperreal, it's a question every single one of us needs to answer. Really think about that the next time you log on. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always question your reality.